Welcome back to the Peaky Blinders podcast from Story Archives. I'm your host, Mario Busto, alongside
Zachary. Hello, welcome back. Episode
We are
4.
back, Zach. We're back with Season 1, Episode 4 of Peaky Blinders, the month before the new season of Peaky Blinders comes out. But we're continuing. We're going to finish Season 1, and then we're going to do Season 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And then the first half of 6. And then we're going to do the last season of Peaky Blinders. So we're here. And I think we got, 2 more episodes left in this season?
Yeah.
We got 3. We're on episode 4
Ooh.
tonight. We're on episode 4 tonight, and then we got 5 and 6 to
I
go.
thought there was only 5 in the first season.
Oh, there's 6.
All right.
Breaking news.
Well, we got like another week and a half to go for this.
Yeah. Well, a week probably, because we got 1 more this.
A week from today.
3 more.
Yeah,
we
because we
got a
record
week.
1 week. Yeah. We got
Okay,
it.
cool. Let's roll into this thing, man. We got I would say this episode is a more joyous, lighter note of an episode compared to some of the earlier ones. You know, some things are coming together. We see a little bit of success for the Shelby boys, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, at least Grace didn't kill anybody in this one, right?
This is true, right? She killed someone in the last one. That's right.
Yeah.
Was there any deaths in this episode?
Yes. Yeah, there was.
There's one.
At
Everyone
least.
who's seen this, I'm assuming, has watched this episode, so we know there's one communist who dies in this episode.
I mean, it could just be somebody who just started watching the show, listening to this. Recapping.
Oh, well, it
You
didn't
never know.
specify which communist died in this episode.
I know.
All right, well, let's get going. We have an episode recap to get to. We have our notes, our observations, and
Opinions and whatever.
our opinions and whatnot.
it'll be fun.
Zach, side note, I'm kind of jealous of the background of your podcast setup because I
Yeah.
just have my bed because my office is set up in my room.
Yeah.
And it's a blank wall because I haven't found something that I wanted to put there. But it's probably the most boring corner of my room. And you got records back there and stuff. Like
We do.
my family room looks much cooler.
Yeah, I know. You
Yeah.
should move it to your family room. It's
But then
funny.
I gotta move the whole desk.
Yeah, but it's all for the look, right?
I'm gonna do something. Mark my words. It will not be boring back there forever.
Now you just
I mean,
put like
you
a
know,
strip
just-
of wood right above the
I even got
headboard.
I got some work, like some artworks over there and stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna do like a piece of wood back there with like some, what are those lights called? Those fluorescent bulbs that you can spell stuff with. I'll maybe put something
Neon,
back
you
there.
mean? Like a neon light?
Neon.
That actually
Yeah.
might look pretty cool.
I think I'll do like a Story Archive sign. I'll do a custom Story Archive sign on like the headboard area. I'll put like a wooden shelf.
That would be neat.
That would be dope, right? Then I would probably top you.
It might be close. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you top it.
All right. What's your drink of choice today? I'm drinking some quality H2O.
I got some Jameson Irish whiskey. Only the good stuff for the Peaky.
Jameson.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's get this going. Episode recap starting now. Maybe starting a little slow.
All good.
Let's get this to a solid 1.25x.
It's almost the perfect speed. I wish there was
Or
like
1.5x.
a 1 point. Yeah, why not? I almost wish there was like a 2x on here
Yeah. Why?
because I'm used to having 2x on my podcasts. Anytime I'm listening to a podcast, if it's in my ears, I listen to it on 2x. But if it's on like in the car, I can't go any higher than like 1.5 because it just
Yeah.
sounds too quick.
Got you. Well, I can't watch television shows in 2x. So let's get started here. We got a very romantic stroll with Ada, pregnant with her very romantic husband, Freddie Thorne, taking her down a very dirty river in the middle of industrial era Birmingham.
Yeah, dates with this guy it seems kind of risky. You never know what's going to happen.
Well, he takes you under a tunnel. You get, it's just not much. She's smoking cigarettes.
Handing people
Also, back
cash.
then, I guess there was not like, don't drink and don't smoke while you have a baby.
No, that not back then. I mean, keep in mind, for the longest time, doctors and the medical industry thought cigarettes and smoking was healthy for you.
They're not?
I don't know. I mean,
All right.
not cigarettes at least.
Yeah. Well, Freddie's just returned from London, and he's reported that London's on the brink of revolution. They're ready for a communist revolution. And he's pretty much just stirring up trouble. There's, Tommy's instincts are kind of correct about Freddie here, where it's a thorn. He's a thorn in his side.
Yeah.
Then we get a shot with Tommy returning back, just walking through the neighborhood in his strolls, and Jeremiah, what is he, a priest,
he's like
a
a
pastor,
preacher. I don't know. He's like a soapbox preacher kind of man.
He's like a Bob
Jamaican,
Marley
something
preacher.
like that.
Yeah. Bottom line is we kind of get like a little sneak peek of the fact that Tommy kind of has a network of spies in that neighborhood that tell him what's what.
I think he made an appearance in like the first episode, but it was it was nothing important.
Jeremiah becomes a more pronounced character later on in the show, and that's not like necessarily a main revolving character, like where we see some character development, but he's a more prominent character in later seasons, I would say.
Yeah.
Anyways, we get a little behind the scenes look of a Lee Boys gypsy ambush waiting. I don't know who this little boy is.
He's one of the Lee Boys. He snuck in there.
How the hell did he sneak in there? With who?
He just snuck in and ran and hid, and that's why Polly didn't see him, and nobody saw him. But I'm actually surprised Tommy was a little bit more suspicious of the wagon. He eyed it when he walked in here, but
maybe Tommy knew.
Completely ignored it. Yeah, but he completely ignored it. Like, why would you want to be ransacked and have a grenade? Well, we'll get to that point.
You would also assume, like, with his spies in the neighborhood, that he would know.
Yeah, like, I feel like there would be guards outside or something.
But is it so far-fetched to think that maybe Tommy knew, and that's why some of the things that happen later in the episode happen? With John and, his arranged betrothal?
I don't know. I mean, they already had this, like, feud going on before the whole
I gotta
Billy
say,
Kimber thing. So
what's his name? Scudboat? They called him Scudboat?
I think so, yeah.
I think Scudboat got away here pretty clean, considering.
Oh, he did.
Like, honestly, if I was running the gambling operation, I would probably assume that Scudboat was a spy and it was him, because he really at least should have had an ear ripped off or something. Because he got a butt smack in the face with
because
you saw the guy right there with the wrap on his ear.
Yep.
That's because the Peaky Blinders, Arthur cut off his ear, so I would assume Scudboat would have been
a little more hurt than that. He really looks like a pirate, honestly. Like, I could see him in Pirates of the Caribbean.
He doesn't really fit in, but he also kind of looks half gypsy.
Yeah.
So maybe he's like gypsy.
It's the jewelry thing.
It's the earring.
Yeah.
It's the earring, I would say. But it's a different look. It's not the usual look. I guess you could say that they did come for full retaliation, because they try to leave a grenade. Well, they do leave a grenade for Tommy.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, in that moment with Tommy where he's there and talking. I'm kind of skipping forward a little bit here, so we're going to do some backtracking and not necessarily do things in order. But Tommy has a bit of respect for one of the Lee Boy leaders. Mm-hmm. He says that he served in the war, and he knows about the game. We'll get back to what the game is in a second, because before the Shelby boys find out that they've been knocked off, is that the way to say it? Knocked off?
I don't think it's the
I think it's knocked off. I think knocked off means you've been robbed.
I think that means you've been killed.
No, I think you're wrong. Anyways, we'll do some. That's why we need a third person to do some fact checking for us whenever we say some stuff that's off the rail.
That would be good.
But we get a confession from John here, who's overwhelmed by his 4 children that he apparently has that have never made an appearance on the show and do not make an appearance at any point later on in the show that I can think of.
Yeah. He's talking about how his 4 kids, which I wrote with a question mark, kids.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a mother, so he's.
But his wife died. Apparently, right?
Yeah, supposedly.
So now his proposal is that he's overwhelmed with the kids. He can't really take care of them like that, which kind of makes sense because you don't see John that often in the early episodes, which would make you think that he's taking care of the kids.
Going on, yeah.
Right, but then why would Polly not be involved?
I mean, she is the mother of the gang.
Altogether feels a little plot holey considering what we know from the later seasons. Mm-hmm. And then additionally, I would say that John's option for a wife is not to the liking of his family, because it's Lizzie Stark, who's apparently a renowned prostitute.
She is
in the streets of Birmingham.
Pump. Yeah, it's kind of funny because he phrases it, that he's overwhelmed with the kids and everything, but it's really, they don't have a mother, so he's trying to marry this lady so that they have a mother, but he's going to marry the town whore.
Well, do we ever see Tommy hook up with Lizzie in the first season?
I don't think so. I don't think
No?
we haven't seen anything like that with Tommy up to this
Yeah,
point.
because he alludes to it. But we don't. I don't think we see it in the first season.
I don't think a lot of time has passed since the first episode to now. Like it's probably been like what, a couple months at most.
Yeah, the timing of each episode is kind of tricky because you would assume it's been a few months in this show because they end up getting a legal gambling license. So I would assume that wouldn't happen super quick.
Yeah.
But let's get to this game here because the boys return back to the, what would you call this den? This gambling den? What would you call it?
That's a good name for it. We'll call it the gambling den.
Returns
I'm sure
back to the
they actually
gambling
have
den.
a name for it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think there is, but I'm blanking on names right now.
I have the same
But they're
problem.
apparently playing, there's a game in World War II where they would leave booby traps for the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what they would do is all they would leave behind is wire cutters. So you know somewhere in the place you're at has a booby trap and you may be tripping a grenade.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Tommy realizes that more than likely that grenade was meant for him. And so...
His name was on the bullet.
Yeah.
So.
Why did he think that it would be in the car? Like, how did he know to go to the car?
Because it's the only thing of his. It's the only
Yeah,
thing
that
with
was it?
him. Yeah, like this is his car.
Yeah.
And we have...
Well, they find, he goes to the car and he finds Finn there, pretending to be him driving. And Finn is just probably
idiot.
the most random character in all of Peaky Blinders. Is any character more of a plot device than Finn?
At this point, no.
He's so random and also does like a hyper aging sequence.
I don't
want to get too far
Other than
ahead.
John's 4 kids,
Yeah,
Finn
yeah,
takes
yeah.
the cake.
Who knows? Maybe those 4 kids make an appearance at some point.
I don't know. What if
Anyways, Finn, instead
is
of listening
one the
to
4
his
kids?
brother, decides that he's going to not listen and literally just open the door. But kids are kids. They're dumb sometimes, and they're just they cannot fathom that somebody would try to harm them necessarily, I guess. And so Finn just does not listen to instructions and almost kills himself. Almost kills like 4 miners or coal miners in the background too, because Tommy launches a stick of dynamite like in the direction of like two workers in the background.
I think it was an actual grenade, not a dynamite. But
Was it a grenade? I thought it was a stick of
well, back in this time, grenades weren't like those round balls that we've
There
had
weren't
recently.
frags?
It's not a
weren't-
frag grenade or an M1 or I think is it an M1?
You
grenade?
sure about that, buddy?
Yeah, there used to be a stick. I think it was like a German grenade or German design.
I'm almost positive like a round grenade existed in 1920.
Oh, I'm sure
almost
it existed, but it wasn't. It's called a style hand granite, something like that. It's a German hand grenade.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what it was something
I
very
guess
similar
gypsies.
to that.
No,
or
it's
like an
understandable.
M24
Why would
stick.
gypsies have like the latest and greatest of
Yeah.
army technology? So
Exactly.
they're dealing with the old stuff.
Stole it from the Germans.
Anyways, Tommy thinks enough is enough here with this attempted assassination, and tries to, I guess, make a truce here and tries to kill 2 birds with 1 stone because he really he does something in this meeting where he arranges a peace deal, and he kind of calls towards his royal gypsy blood that he has on his mother's side when the gypsy queen, who's kind of hot, questions his loyalty.
2 things. One, she really reminds me of a character in a
Cersei.
show I just started watching. I just started watching that show C, and the queen.
Oh,
She looks. I mean, this is like the very first, most freaking awkward scene I've ever seen in my life so far. Like 5 seconds in with this woman, but she reminds me of her. Anyways,
also kind of has some Cersei vibes to her.
Tommy, we'll find out about it later, but this is like a really big bet that he just made on somebody making a certain decision a little later in the show.
Yeah.
And if that person didn't make the decision that Tommy predicted that they would make, this would be
remember,
a different episode.
Tommy's operating with all the facts. He knows all the facts involved with Lizzie Stark, so he knows his brother, and he knows ultimately that his brother's going to do what he needs him to do, right?
Yeah.
Because we see a couple of other scenes in this episode, specifically when they're one-on-one, that we kind of see John's heart in a way,
Yeah.
Cut to Freddie Thorne naked in a very uncomfortable looking tub.
Yeah, you gotta heat some water in a pot over fire and try not to burn your balls or something.
I
That's
mean,
great.
I guess there wasn't a water hose back then.
Ah, you can look. There's a pot right there. getting
Ada's
heated up
going to
for
work
him.
right now, by the
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Well,
She's got some hand
let's talk
action
a little
here.
bit about what's going on.
Yeah.
Ada's frustrated by how broke they are. I would assume that bathtub alludes to how broke they are.
Uh-huh.
And she wants Freddie to pretty much take the deal that
Tommy.
I think at this point that Tommy offered him a deal with some money to leave town for a bit, and Freddie is stubborn. You got to respect Freddie for saying no to that. You know what I mean?
I still think he's a fool.
Why? I mean, besides being a communist.
There you go.
But other than that,
it's his
he's sticking
communist tendencies that is really keeping him here, though. That's the thing. It's not so much that he was told to leave. Like, if he wasn't a communist, he wouldn't be told to leave, because he wouldn't be in trouble with the law in the way that he is. He would not be trying to ruin the business.
I see Freddie as like a reflection of Tommy in a way, because Tommy used to be sympathetic to the communist cause before he left to war.
Yeah,
right?
they say
that he's not. They say that he's not the man that he used to be before the war. He was I guess he wasn't as jaded by human suffering as he was after the war, where he saw the atrocities that man could commit, and when fighting against each other.
Yeah.
But we got one of the more important scenes in the show here. A confrontation between Tommy and Campbell, where Tommy's offering him the address to a communist organizer named Stanley Chapman, I think.
Chapman,
is his
yes,
name.
that is correct. Stanley Chapman.
And he is offering his address in exchange for pretty much safe passage for Ada and Freddie to leave safely from the town. I think that was the deal, right? Zach doesn't know.
What are you talking about?
He's given the address because he wants Ada and Freddie to leave safely.
Yeah,
because Campbell had threatened.
Safe passage is what he's trying to get here for them.
Exactly. But in this scene, Campbell's got to be a little bit over the top. It's almost like he always has to assert dominance in some way.
Yeah, he does have an how do you say that?
An inferiority complex?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And more on that in season 2. Or maybe it's season 1. I don't recall when everything happens.
I think it's 2.
But here he shows who he really is, who is his heart. Because what he tells Tommy is, look, I understand you're giving me this deal here, but I need those weapons. And if you don't give me those weapons, I may be replaced by somebody who Churchill thinks can get results. And if I'm not here, you may be in trouble. Because if I get fired by your fault, I'm not only going to kill you, I'm going to kill your brothers, I'm going to kill your sister, and the baby inside of her belly, as he says with the Scottish accent. And he's going to send Finn to a jail where some terrible things could happen to Finn. And so in that scene, you see, like, Campbell's a literal evil.
He's ruthless.
He's a piece of shit. Like, he's literally, like, he's a ruthless, evil person who's power hungry. Really, all this for him is just a power grab to move up the ladder of his what do you call that? Criminology.
No, I mean
Frank.
I don't even know what you would call it here, right? Like, I mean, he's in law enforcement, right? Like, he's not in a criminal well, I don't know. Maybe you could call it a criminal justice system or something akin to that.
Yeah. He really does think that he wants vengeance on Tommy regardless of what happens here. I think it's clear.
Yeah.
But Tommy's expression is priceless. He tries to keep a poker face, but you can see he's seething, especially when he brings up that his family is in danger.
Yeah. Pulls a gun on him, cocks the hammer, and
pulls a gun
continues to walk away.
Makes you wonder what would have happened if Tommy killed him here. I honestly think, as I was watching this episode again, if Tommy killed him, what really would have been the repercussions? I think everything would have gone away because the cops in that department don't like him.
The cops are in his pocket, basically. They don't like
most of the cops are in his pocket, and they definitely don't like this guy.
No, I mean he just brought in a whole bunch of people to show them up in like episode 1.
Yeah, I just think that Tommy is not at a point yet here where he can get away with something like that, and maybe never. Because if you really think about it, if you kill like a sheriff, of a police department in your town, no matter if you're Tommy Shelby, like some shit has to go down. Churchill's gonna send somebody. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he is like Churchill's right-hand man at this point here. Or one of the many of his.
Yeah, I mean, he's in direct contact with Churchill. Churchill Yeah, Churchill has him as like the guy on the ground, essentially, to stop this uprising that could occur with these weapons, right?
Yeah, this is great. You know, they just pulled Stanley Chapman out of his house, found the money, brought him over to Campbell, and Campbell's like, Mr. Chapman, you are fucked.
You know, I always love these scenes of Campbell after the fact when he's in his office and he's smoking a pipe, and he's definitely like taking a victory lap. You know what I mean?
100%.
Right. And then you have his sheriff, who I think Campbell doesn't trust, because I believe this deputy that he's talking to in his victory lap scene is in Tommy's pocket.
I'm not 100% sure if he actually is. He just seems like the most human out of everybody.
Right? But he's also the only cop with a face in this show, aside from Campbell.
You know, he does give Tommy a really hard time. Like, I swear, I mean, this is not really giving anything away, but I swear he's the one who punctured the tires in Tommy's car.
Yeah, probably because he had to, because Campbell commanded him to.
I don't think Campbell would have commanded him to. Like, it's just like, you know, when you have a bully above you and, you know, they beat on you, sometimes you just kind of beat on somebody else who you can.
Well, I wonder if like, in a weird way, with Tommy in charge, the neighborhood's a bit safer. Now, granted, there's going to be a little bit of a power struggle until he's in power, right? But once he's in power, he can really, you know, command things with an iron fist.
Yeah.
Right? And at that point, the cops, I would feel, would enjoy the neighborhood a bit more, because probably getting paid better, getting paid by the Peaky Blinders, you know. And look, let's be honest here. What are the Peaky Blinders really doing that's that bad in this show? I know the listeners of this podcast are going to be like, what the hell is this? Is he really saying that what they do is okay?
He's not drinking H2O.
But think about it. Take the violence out. They just have a gambling ring. They do rig the races. I understand that's wrong. But if they were just doing an illegal gambling operation, that's all they do. Yeah. They're bookmakers. They even say it in the show. Paulie tells Tommy, don't get involved. It's Tommy doing the reach here by stealing the guns and the munitions and stuff like that.
Which was accidental. The reach is really, you know, keeping them and trying to make some move using them as an asset. Like, if they didn't steal the guns, none of this would be happening. None of this. Not a single thing.
Well, the Kimber stuff might have happened, right?
The Kimber stuff, yes, because the end goal for them was to get illegal business, right? Like, that's what they're trying to do. And, you know, that's why he's making the deal with Billy Kimber, and they rigged the races to get his attention.
I think that,
was.
You know, Tommy's just trusting his instincts here. Why, you know, be a mastermind like that if you're not going to double down and bet the house on what you think is going to be a good move? Because really, it's like a double bet here. He's going to take over for Kimber, as we find out that Tommy's going to, as he told the Gypsy Queen, that he's going to betray Kimber and take over the pitch. And he also wants to kind of leverage these guns to give him pretty much a free pass with the government. I would think that's what he's alluded to with Campbell, right? Let's cut to a scene here, because we also had Campbell, who said he is going back on his word on Tommy and he's still going to go after Freddie.
Yeah.
And we also had a scene where Paulie
confronts
kind
Freddie.
of like in a scummy way meets Freddie at the graveyard, because there's not many ways to get in touch with him, but she seems to be able to get in touch with Ada whenever she needs to.
Well, she knew Freddie was going to be at the graveyard, because his mother, he was visiting his mother's grave. He visits her the same day every year. So for her birthday, she was just there in wait. Yeah.
Freddie does something out of character here, but maybe he was just really angry. He tries to grab Paulie by the throat, because she pretty much threatens him in a way of to leave, right? Or no, she actually threatens him after, when he tries to grab her. He says, if you ever touch Ada, I'll kill you myself. She tries
to convince him to leave, but basically she'll put him in a wooden box.
But Freddie does put her in her place, because he says, look, we don't know each other's addresses. Because what she wanted essentially was for him to leave town, and that she tells him that Ada was the one who gave up Stanley Chapman, the communist organizer who Campbell took out of the house. And Freddie tells him, look, the way it works is we don't know each other's addresses, which is kind of weird, because Ada knew his address. So that's a kind of a plot hole, unless I'm not thinking about things.
Thing or something like that. But Paulie was betting on Stanley Chapman knowing Ada's and Freddie's address, but you know that didn't really happen.
Yeah, and you also have a moment there where Freddy's like, look, you just sentenced the innocent man to die, which is essentially putting them in their place because they did. Now Stanley Chapman's dead in the following scene because Campbell does not follow a code of ethics when it comes to interrogating people. So Stanley was killed in the torturing process, and Campbell's in the process of covering it up with, deputies who he seems to find information on to leverage with later so that he can get his way in terms of kind of like operating in that gray area of achieving his goal, but also kind of like not following the rules either.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds you of the time when Churchill tells him, like, this isn't Glasgow. Bodies can't wash up on the shore here. They end up on the front page of the news.
Yeah, that's true.
Front page of the newspaper. All right, what's happening here? On the next scene.
So we have Billy Kimber and Mr. Roberts coming to Birmingham.
Mr. Roberts, is that his name?
Yeah, that's his name here. It's Mr. Roberts.
This whole time, I had no idea what his name was. I literally just call him the accountant in my notes.
I mean, he is the accountant, right? But yeah. Mr. Roberts coming in clutch, coming to Birmingham to pay Tommy a visit.
He's visiting the gambling den here, as we've called it. Yeah. Kimber, by the way, by his eyes, actor's doing a great job because he always looks like a little bit slow and not knowing what's going on and not giving a damn about who's who. But Tommy's essentially saying, hey, here's my squad and we're going to take over. And what I wrote down here was, you can kind of see like the... there's almost like how do I put it? A dilemma with the accountant where he sees that the Shelbys have been profitable for them, but at the same time have not, that Tommy Shelby's dangerous enough to betray them, and it could get hairy. But all in all, things work out here for the Shelbys and for the Kimber racket as well, because they give Tommy and the family their first legal gambling license.
Legitimate business.
Legitimate business, John.
It's great stuff.
You got Arthur in the following scene. He's counting money in his brand new bar, the Garrison, which looks a lot nicer now that they've taken management over, right? Why did it look so dingy?
Well,
before
we are in
over?
The back room, like the office, right? Like this is an unseen room.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it at all until just now. We saw the doorway. That was about it.
Yeah, he's back there counting money, and Grace comes to help him because Arthur's not the counting type.
Yeah.
He takes a nice look at Grace's backside, and you wonder, I think he kind of keeps it to himself here because he knows that this is Tommy's.
Yeah.
Tommy has laid claim. He's laid claim on Grace. Like, he's planted his flag there. And I think Arthur's like, yeah, my little brother can have this one. But Grace is very much playing both sides here. She's fishing for information from Arthur to learn more about their operations, where they keep the cigarettes, and she gives this information to Campbell, which to me at this time I was like, Arthur, man, you really are the weak link. You are the Fredo of this family.
I wrote down, I'm like, did Arthur really just spill the beans to Grace about everything? Like, he just told them all about all the warehouses and storage places.
Grace is really attractive, and so she's fishing, and Arthur is like the most primal of the three brothers, would you say?
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely. I still find it, like, it just shows how weak-minded he is, right? Like,
yeah.
And the other thing that kind of...
Well, don't go too fast, because he actually is not.
Well, I'm not getting ahead of myself. The other thing, though, that I wrote down about that I kind of thought was odd was, Arthur knew that he told Grace about, the warehouses and the storage places and all of this, and, in a way kind of said what was going on, right? And the same evening, they all got raided. And I'm like, well, can you not put two and two together?
They do make it seem like it's the same night. But maybe it wasn't the same night.
That's true.
If it was the same night, I reiterate my point from the last episode. I would hate Campbell to be my handler if I was a spy, because how are you going to raid it the same night that you get the tip?
Yeah, the moment you get it. It's like, all right, we're there. No.
To our shame, because we were wrong about Arthur being foolish, the following scene, you see Tommy confront Grace and say, I hear you've been asking questions. And which means that Arthur knows that she was fishing and he didn't give her anything of worth. Because Campbell ended up raiding it in a little montage where they found absolutely nothing but cigarettes and liquor, and they had to. Well, actually, I take it back, because Campbell makes mention of this later, that they covered everything up so it didn't look like a break-in. So they actually put the lids back on everything. So it was the same night, but they didn't find anything. So the tip didn't put her in danger.
To your point with Arthur, though, you're taking like the positive spin, and I'm thinking the opposite, as always. You're saying, Arthur just came to Tommy and told him, hey, so and so is asking questions. I'm thinking Arthur may have come to Tommy and been like, hey, dude, I effed up. I kind of told her about the storage places and the warehouses. Like, that's how I envision that conversation going.
Yeah, I could see your point there. And Tommy might have been like, Arthur, what the hell are you doing? You don't spill the beans on that kind of stuff. But no, I don't think that's how it went. I think Arthur, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here, man. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Cut to a scene of Tommy and Grace in a church. Why is Tommy bringing her to church?
This is like their private meeting place or something.
Yeah, he's got pure intentions with her. That's why, because she's a good girl. So you take a good girl to church. You don't take her to the club. You don't take her to the bar. You take her to church. And that's what Tommy does here. As agnostic as he is,
hey, listen,
takes you to
where two or more people gathered, God is there. So church could be anywhere. It could be in the bedroom.
See? Well, it seems like in this show you have a lot of scenes in church where you want somebody to be honest.
It's true.
And by the way, I had kind of a little theory. Maybe Tommy and Arthur give information to Grace because they know that she's working with Campbell and that they'd rather have her close so that they can give her false information.
Yeah, but do they give her false information though?
Hey, you give a little fishing line out there about a dock or a port that doesn't have anything. Yeah, that's it, But anyways, let's get to what's going on here. Tommy wants to hire Grace as I don't know what. I would say a position that he can keep her as close as possible. A personal assistant, because he's in love with her. And Tommy puts the moves on her heavy on this scene.
Oh, he does.
Men listening out there in the audience, take some notes. Take notes on Tommy Shelby's moves in this scene. Do what you got to do. Ladies, too, if you want to make the move, by all means.
It is a modern world, right?
Grace is done here. Grace, her allegiances have been completely messed up here at this point in this scene, because she's falling for Tommy, too. And then you can see it in the scene.
Yeah. She's conflicted. That's for sure.
Yeah. I've heard things that the actress who plays Grace is not very well received by.
I'm not a fan of her. I think I told you this the first time I watched this. I don't really like Grace.
I like
not
her.
In the first season. She gets better in the second or whatever. Yeah, I think it's the second.
Don't say anything else.
I'm not going to say anything else. I just did not like her the first. Yeah. I still don't really like her that much. Like, it's just like a lot of it's just too obvious what she's doing to me. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
In the following scene, we get another female interest here of John's, Lizzie Stark. We actually see her for the first time, because I don't think we see Lizzie.
I don't think we've seen her before.
In a prior episode or scene of the show. And Tommy's being manipulative here. He's trying to see if she's really changed. I honestly think that if Lizzie would have denied service to Tommy here, that he would have been okay with them getting married, and he wouldn't have brought this up to John.
I agree, and this is the decision that was made by somebody else that I was alluding to earlier on, right? Like if she decided to turn him down,
oh yeah, you're absolutely right.
Again, then there would have been like a civil war between the Lee boys and the Shelbys, right?
Well, let's be honest here. I have a feeling that Lizzie's probably in love with Tommy. She sees herself as some sort of like
John Boy's away in the door, foot in the door or something like that.
It's like John Boy will always be second, but Tommy really has her heart because he's the leader. She was the only one that he would visit and pretty much have sex with when he came back, like for his lonely times from the war. And I think she feels like they have a deeper connection here, right? And so she says yes to one last time. And I think Tommy was pretty confident of that from when he made that deal with the Lees to begin with.
I think,
also, I think Tommy probably would have told his brother that he hooked up with Lizzie anyways. So maybe that would have been
that's true. That could have been like a
too.
scummy side of Tommy here. So
Well, it wouldn't have been scummy. It's like, do you want to marry the girl that your brother's hooked up with? Like, it's kind of like, you know, it's not like, it's just a gray area.
It is.
You know?
It is. But yeah, what we saw here was Tommy offer her 8 bloody pounds for one last go around.
Yeah.
8
I
pounds
felt so bad.
equates to roughly $217 currently, US dollars today.
Yeah, but I felt bad in this scene because, I mean, I guess that would be a lot of money back then, but in some of the numbers that they throw around earlier in the show,
calculating
it's not that
inflation.
much money.
I'm calculating inflation. $217 in today's money is what that would have been worth back then.
Did you look that up?
Yeah, it's in my notes.
How did you find that out?
Dude, you do the calculation of pounds to dollar. You take that conversion.
Did you type the year 1918?
Yes, and then you calculate the inflation.
Okay, well, you looked it up then. All right,
I did. I told you I looked it up.
All right, well, anyways, Lizzie says yes to the 8 pounds, and Tommy says no, get out of the carriage. And I think he tells her, I didn't really catch that last part, but I think he tells her that he would have let it go on. But he says John will do what he wants to do. He'll be okay with it if John still wants to go through with the marriage. But John has to know all of the details.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lizzie storms off and says, your brother's 10 times the man you are. and Tommy admits this is true. This is true. All right, Zach, you want to give us a little lowdown on this conversation that occurs with Campbell and Grace in their favorite art museum that seems to be their rendezvous spot?
Yeah, so basically Grace is talking to Campbell about how, she's been offered a job. And, the short of it is really Campbell becomes very frustrated and overprotective of Grace. And, he's not really happy right now.
Well, as we talked earlier, he has an inferiority complex.
Yeah.
Pretty much against everybody, but the one that we really see it against is Tommy. Mm-hmm. Because he's in love with Grace in his own way. And he really just tries to talk down Tommy and his achievements any which way he can. But Grace is really not necessarily a follow the law type of character. Mm-hmm. She's driven by vengeance on the IRA.
Yeah.
And she's not really concerned about the rest of the stuff going on, the power struggles going on with Campbell and the Peaky Blinders.
Mm-hmm. Now we had Grace storming off. She's not happy with Campbell either.
Well, she doesn't like being lectured
or told what to do.
I can't say I blame her. She's the one taking the risk, right?
Yeah, all of the risk.
She's taking all the risk. She doesn't know these guys, like what they would do to her if they found out that she's a spy, right?
If only she knew.
Yeah.
I don't think her barmaid days in Belfast would. I think is that where she was from? Belfast.
Yeah,
I think so.
Because she lies about that. So I think she's from Belfast, though.
I think so.
Well, the next scene we see John getting the car ready for his wedding, or taking Lizzie out to the park with the kids, that we never meet.
Never.
And it's in this scene where Tommy gives him the news about what happened, and he lets him know, look, I have your back and I support you in your decision, no matter what you want to do. But do keep this in mind. And John,
he's pissed.
He can't do it. Who wouldn't be?
John boy is pissed.
Yeah, and Tommy's kind of celebrating
the following scene. He was very smug when he was telling John boy. He was like, by the way,
it's his time of the day. He gets to see his girl at the bar. He's having a couple of shots with her.
Yeah,
and she even has a bit of champagne. But Tommy says, put it away for an occasion we can actually celebrate.
Yeah.
How good is that champagne that he saved it?
I don't know. He probably just didn't want to.
You a champagne guy?
I'm not. I'll drink it, but I'm not a fan of it. It's really sweet, so it messes with my blood sugar, which is kind of just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But beyond that, that's one of the few things that'll end up giving me a headache if I have too much. Like, I can drink a ton of wine. I can drink, other stuff, and I'm fine.
It does taste really good to me.
It does.
But it's great. It's not my go-to, and it does give me a headache.
I would never go out of the way for champagne.
No.
I'd rather celebrate with a scotch or something.
I'll drink it, of course, but
same.
And enjoy it, but it would not be my first choice.
No, it's just would not go.
What I am really in the mood for and would be my first choice right now is an old fashioned.
Yeah.
I don't have the stuff in my house to make it.
I've got the stuff over here.
You do? You got oranges?
I've got oranges. I got the Angostura bitters. I have obviously the whiskey and the sugar cubes and everything.
Yeah. Well, Grace has an assignment from Tom. What?
I said you got to come over this weekend.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Well, you have Grace here getting her first assignment from Tommy, which is to deliver an invitation to Ada for an event that we will soon find out what it is. Right?
It's the event that I alluded to earlier.
Yes, it is. And we see a scene here where Tommy's going up to his room and he hears something. And it's none other than John Boy, who seems to be plastered and trying to smoke opium out of Tommy's favorite pipe. And we get a very vulnerable scene here between Tommy and John. First and foremost, we see that John is also struggling with the horrors that he witnessed in war.
Yeah.
And we really do see an element here of like John is the little brother in this scene, man. That's what it is. He's just a little brother who needs some help. And we see that really all he wants to do is make his big brother proud. And if you really think about it, Tommy is the big brother of all three, even though he's the middle child.
He's mentally the big brother.
Yeah, he's everything, the big brother. Even Arthur wants to make Tommy proud. Come on.
Oh, yeah, honest. I know. I mean, Arthur's not a leader.
Yeah, he can lead for small things.
Of course, we saw that in the last episode.
But he's not a tactician like Tommy.
No, he's not. He does not have good strategy.
Yeah. Well, we get a really nice moment here with Tommy and John, and Tommy's pretty much just consoling him a bit and telling him, "Look, we're accomplishing things, man. Yeah. We're the first Shelbys in history to have a legal license." Mm-hmm. And then he makes a pretty cool impression of his granddad about how they're not known for having honest money in the house. So, what did you think of this scene between Tommy and John?
I mean, the acting is really good, actually. Like John Boy is on point here. I mean, he's very frustrated. He's visually getting red in the face. You can see his veins popping out in his head. Like he's angry. Like he's doing good. But no, I thought the scene was interesting. Like we got to see a different side of both Tommy and John Boy, right? Because John Boy's this hothead, just like Arthur's kind of a hothead too, right? Yeah. He just seems less damaged than Arthur. And Tommy's always strategic, business. It's just different from I think the
usual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, last but not least, we're getting to my final, at least my favorite scene in this particular episode, which is the event we've been alluding to the whole time. In order for the alliance to take place between the Lees and the Shelbys, Tommy has arranged a marriage between an unsuspecting John and a gypsy princess who seems to have gone a little bit wild, and they need to lock her in to a marriage to kind of
gotta tame her or something,
settle her down, as somebody says. I don't remember who says it.
It may have been the mother.
John knows something's up here because everybody starts handing him flowers and they pin it to his lapel. It's a done deal here.
Whose bloody wedding?
But I do love this scene here because there's a shot here where John, he accepts his fate, and there's like a swaggering walk that John Boy does up the thing with a toothpick in his mouth.
Yeah. It's a great shot.
Yeah.
Cue the rock and roll.
Yeah. Where are John's kids?
Dude, I'd love to know.
How old are they?
He's the youngest out of Tommy and Arthur,
and he's got four
kids.
Yeah.
Tommy doesn't have any. Arthur doesn't have any.
Yeah, Tommy puts the implications of what would happen if John says no, and he pretty much says the war that will happen between the Shelbys and the Lees will make what we've experienced in the war look like a tea party. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he says tea party, but John realizes that he's been set up for this, and he just has to do it. But I love this shot of John where he just decides, he just knows that he's coming in. Here comes, and the Gypsy Queen awaits, kind of like in disbelief that it's actually occurring.
Yeah,
I think she thought maybe that they would be stood up or whatever.
Well, the other thought here that I had was maybe there was no names named. Like maybe it could have been John Boy or someone else. Because like there's this moment where the mother of the Lees basically, or Queen Elite, whatever it is,
Who-
sees
yeah.
John Boy and like basically like gives some sign of approval, like, oh, okay, yeah, he's not freaking ugly. Like that.
You know,
that's what happens.
I have a feeling that in this negotiation, it was probably supposed to be Tommy to get married, and Tommy's like, you know, that ain't for me. That's not gonna happen. Not to somebody I don't want to marry. And this is what occurred, but it ended up being okay for John because his wife's very pretty. Esme, I think's her name.
Isma.
And how do you say it?
Isma. Asma.
You
Something
know?
like that.
Well, they're getting married by a very righteous man named Johnny Dogs, and he's officiating the ceremony, which is great. Is Esme the daughter of the Gypsy Queen?
Esme Martha Lee is her name, so I'm pretty sure. I mean, they're
Yeah,
all
so
Lees, right?
So she is Gypsy royalty then.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, Ada shows up to the wedding and kind of calls out Tommy and says, you know, you actually admire Freddie Thorne. And we kind of see that Tommy does, because if you really think about it, Freddie's kind of who Tommy was before the war, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Fighting for a cause that he was like, he believed in, that was larger than life, that was his purpose for life. And Tommy's been jaded. Like, really his main purpose now is to pretty much secure as much power and influence for his family as possible to create a better future for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think Tommy's just more of a realist at this point of what's possible and what's not. And he's also seen the destruction of what that ideology can bring to people and what it ravages in war.
Yeah. You
Right?
know, I also want to talk about the wedding real quick, the ceremony real quick.
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about
that. Just a quick thing. It felt like a blood brothers ceremony, right? Like, you know, you prick your finger, somebody else pricks their finger, and you just smear it. Like they cut each other's hands, and you know, it's like a blood brothers thing. It's not very
I love this
traditional.
scene in general. Like, I want to talk about a few things here. I'm actually going to pause our playthrough here, but I love the scene of John seeing Esme for the first time, because I mean, he's signing up for a marriage and he doesn't know if he's going to get like the, you know, you know, like just an absolutely ugly, sorry, pardon my French, but you know, somebody who's not that attractive on the altar. You never know who could have been that gypsy princess,
You didn't even
man.
say anything bad.
Huh?
I said you didn't even say anything French.
Yeah, I didn't want to be offensive to, you know.
We've already said the F-bomb. Things
I
happen.
did? No, I didn't.
I think we did. Saying
Not in this
something-
episode.
I don't know. Whatever. Go ahead.
Maybe you did.
Continue.
You need to lay off the Jameson.
I was reading the line. It was it was literally from the episode. I was just reading the script. It was just great.
All right,
Stanley
whatever.
Chapman, Mr. Chapman.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did with the
Yeah.
Chapman thing. All right, so it was your fault. Usually it's my fault that I curse in the
It
episode.
is true. It is true.
Yeah.
But you know,
Anyways.
the script made me say.
Yeah.
That's great.
Anyways, I like that expression when John sees her for the first time, and she sees him because she could have gotten somebody hideous as well, a Princess and the Toad situation.
Yeah.
You know,
He
but
did have that thank God look on his face.
yeah, but they, you know, both attractive people and nice little marriage between the two of them. I love this scene because it's actually like one of the few happy scenes in Peaky Blinders where it's like everybody's joyous.
Yeah.
You even get a pretty nice scene where Tommy's smoking a cigarette next to the gypsy queen. It's pretty nice. It's almost like Tommy's the head of the family. But in Peaky Blinders, all happy things must come to an end, and Ada begins to get out of control, and she has to make a scene in front of the whole family. She really turns on him pretty hard here.
Oh, she does.
Why?
Well, I think it's hormones. She's pregnant.
I think it's the alcohol.
Like, and both.
Yeah, but she's so angry on the drop of a hat here. You know, it's just like,
Well, you know, she is around Freddie all the time, right? Like, so, you know,
she's
who
probably
knows what
pissed about
Freddie's
that
saying
too.
in
And she's
in
probably
her
pissed
ear all
about the
time.
fact that she's stuck in a hole.
Yeah.
You know, and she just
would
doesn't
be
understand
too.
the whole story.
I would be too.
She doesn't know all the details. Tommy knows that Freddie would be put in jail if they weren't in hiding.
Yeah. Anyways.
And by the way, her water breaks in the situation.
It does.
Does a woman's water break if she's under a high amount of stress? Is that a thing?
I don't know if that's a thing. I mean, if you're jumping around, I'm sure that doesn't help.
Yeah.
I don't know about the stress thing.
I like this like little tradition that the Shelby boys do here.
Uh-huh.
While the women go and like give, you know, she gives labor to a child, they go off and get like, you know, plastered.
I'm sorry. Whoops. Yeah, they get plastered.
Yeah, they go get plastered at the bar, and they say the boys are gonna go get drink. And I was like, all right, that's a nice little tradition.
Yeah.
You know. Meanwhile, Ada is screaming for her life, and Esma is actually getting initiated into the family by being kind of like a midwife here.
Yeah. Well, this is Paulie's moment of women's business or something along those lines.
You think this flies? I mean, would this fly with your wife? Me and you go get drunk while she's giving.
I'd probably have to be there, but when you're having your kid, we'll go get drunk.
We'll do that.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Yeah. We'll definitely. You'll need a drink, so we'll just drink in the hospital. We'll just have like
I'll bring it in like Don Draper in a paper bag.
Just something to ease you up a little bit. It's got to be a nerve-wracking situation,
exactly.
Which it is. But I still like the scene of the boys drinking. You even get a smiling, laughing Tommy who laughs because Arthur's like, "Oh, look how giggly he is with Grace around," and they're just chatting like old times. You kind of get a picture like this is what they're like without a stressful situation occurring.
Yeah.
Right. Meanwhile, Tommy expands the truce with Freddie so he can be with his wife as she's giving birth, and he runs through the town. I really like that shot of him running through the slums of Birmingham to go be with Ada. And he arrives to a very joyous scene of Polly smiling over the baby. And does he name the baby in this scene?
I mean, I think so.
Does he? Let's see.
Let's
find out. Because the scene doesn't end well, because it ends with Campbell storming in to arrest Freddie. And I would have to assume that Grace is the one who tipped him off, because she's the only one who would have known of it.
I was going to...
And by the way... Sorry, I keep on talking.
No worries.
Isn't it kind of obvious? Like, who's the spy?
I don't think he named him in here.
No?
They came right after he picked up the kid. Here's the thing, though. Like, it had to have been Grace that tipped him off, right? Because in the earlier scene, just like literally a moment or two ago, when Tommy and Arthur and John Boy and everybody was in there drinking... and getting plastered, right? Like, Tommy had said that Freddie was on his way to see his kid or something like that, right? And Grace kind of got this look in her eye, like, oh, really? And I feel like she like went to the back room, made a phone call, because I think there's a phone in there.
Yeah, they don't really show it on screen, but I would have to assume that it's Grace who tips him off. I love this shot here. Tommy's drinking at the bar with Grace alone. He's drinking and Grace is cleaning up the counter. And there's a great shot of Tommy's face when Paulie walks in, that he's like in a drunken stupor. You kind of know that. Everyone kind of knows that drunken stupor face. And he comes to like a realization of like, oh, he sobers up real quick because Paulie's accusing him of having tipped off the police to arrest Freddie. But we honestly know here that Tommy didn't alert Campbell to it.
Yeah. And
Tommy has a realization here where... Did she spit on him there?
Yeah, she spit on him. She did.
She's out of control.
I was going to say, she's really...
No, she spit on the
really
floor. She didn't spit on him.
Well, not in his face or anything, but like towards the feet.
Yeah, no.
Well, it's the same thing. You spit on the floor when you're looking at somebody and you're basically spitting on them.
Would you rather someone spit in your face or spit at your feet?
Well, if they spit in my face, I'd kill them, so I don't know.
Anyways, it's an important scene because Tommy, he knows Campbell went back on his word here. So happy times in Ridgemont High or fast times in Ridgemont High, they're coming to an end. And there's once again conflict again in Tommy's life.
Of course.
And end of episode.
It was a good episode. When you said earlier on, this is one of the happier episodes, I'm like, is it really? Like, I didn't think it was. Like, I thought it was one of the less happy ones. But, everything up until the very end, I think, was actually more I don't want to say lighthearted, but it was happier than the other ones. Well, anyways, we're at the end.
Yeah, I would say it's overall a happier episode, but mainly because of the wedding.
Yeah,
it's
really
just the
end scene. It's the wedding that went on. Like, we get to see these more joyous moments with some of the characters, Tommy, Arthur, John Boy, and everybody. So I mean, I think that bit was just like there was less seriousness periodically throughout this episode, which was nice. It's like a nice breather, but it ended probably
back
like the
into what
worst.
we're
Yeah, it
used
was
to, right?
exactly. Happiness does not last long in the Peaky Blinders world.
Actually, I will challenge that because you have Tommy, who also has that moment with Grace, and they kiss for the first time, I think, in the church.
Yeah, first time.
So you get a few happy scenes in this episode.
No, you do.
You get their first legal gambling license.
Yeah.
That's a happy moment. You get several little happy moments. Let's say about 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, no,
Mixed in with darkness, mixed in with Campbell, mixed in with.
Of course. But I think you called it though.
things.
I mean, out of the other 3 that we've watched so far, this was like the least serious, dark episode that we've had. It still ended terrible, like I said. Like, happiness does not last long for the Shelbys, but
Yeah.
that's I mean, it's where we are. Anyways, since we're at the end of this, best scene or favorite scene?
Favorite scene, I'd have to say, is the wedding in general. Everything with it, and the boys drinking together. I like all those scenes just to kind of get more of a feel of like the play between the characters and stuff like that.
Well, last time you had the best scene that I had written down. I had to pick something else. I wrote down the wedding. I'm not going to pick something else at this point. Like, I really think that was my favorite scene overall. I don't think there was much else. Like, the entire, elements of the wedding, going on. Like, there was a lot going on there.
If I had to choose runner-ups, I would say the scene with Grace and Tommy in the church. I really liked that scene, as well as the conversation with John and Tommy in the room. I really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the conversation in the room with Tom and Johnny, geez, I think would be my second favorite. I wasn't too much of a fan of the church one. I mean, it's not like it was bad.
You're just not a fan of Grace.
I don't like her. Anyways, most memorable character for this episode. I have mine, and I have a feeling it's going to be the same as yours.
Most memorable character for this episode, or who stole the episode?
I mean,
who had the best performance in the episode? I'd have to say, you want to go first or me? You already have it.
I have mine written down. You go ahead. I have mine written down for some of these questions, so I'll let you answer first.
Okay. I guess it's a cop out to always say Tommy, but I gotta go Tommy on this episode. I think he stole the show.
Mine is John Boy, because we got to see we got to see a lot more of him. We got to see a lot of different sides of his character, right? Like, this whole episode is in a way centered around him, right? Like, you have Lizzie,
I can't say spoilers, but John Boy, actually, you're absolutely right, and I would change my answer if I could, but I'll stick with Tommy. Even something he says about marrying Lizzie Stark, that has repercussions later on in other seasons, and we actually see the truth of what he's saying. I'm not going to give anything away because it would give away some spoilers. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of truth in what happened with John Boy in this episode and what he was used for in this episode. Aside from his 4 kids, who just do not exist. Can we get a quick Google search as to John Boy's 4 kids? I'm doing this. I'm looking it up right now. John Boy's kids.
You do that.
God, what is this? What just got popped up?
While you're, I don't know. I don't want to see John Boy's kids, but while you're looking that up, there was 2 things that were mentioned in the episode, and I figured I would look them up just in case people were curious. We have the one which is pretty obvious. It's the women only days. It's basically a polite way of saying they're on the period. And then we have the Bolsheviks, right? So the Bolsheviks, I had to look that up because I didn't know what that was. Do you know what that was? Bolsheviks?
Bolsheviks are communists.
Okay, yeah. So basically,
but it's the Russian Revolution.
It's a member of the majority faction of the Russian Social Democratic Party, which was renamed the Communist Party after seizing power in the October Revolution of 1917. So, like, just recently they became the Communist Party. So, like, the whole CP thing is very new.
The communist thing is very new?
The Communist Party is very, it happened, like, less than a year old at this point.
Yeah, well, I'll remember because I took a Western civilization class or European history, and the Bolshevik Revolution was fascinating. Just like probably the thing that surprised me most about that course was how fascinating it was to learn about the Bolshevik Revolution and how that took place, and just the uprising that took place and the violence that exploded in that area. It really, wherever communism goes, violence erupts.
Yeah.
It's like a volcanic eruption of violence that occurs whenever it's able to take power. So I don't know where you were going with that, but yes, that's a good tidbit of history there.
No, I mean, it was just some terminology used in the episode, and I figured I would look it up for anybody who
that's good stuff.
Wasn't sure on some of the terms and words and phrases used in the show.
What about Scudboat?
What about him?
Nothing.
You want me to look up Scudboat? I don't want to.
I should have put Scudboat still scene. I don't think Scudboat gets that much airtime ever again.
No, I don't think so. I think that was his shining moment there.
Yeah. Anything else? I think the plot holes. The plot holes go to the 4 kids of John. That's the plot hole.
Kids. Yeah, that one takes the cake. That's for sure.
All right. So after this, we got episode 5 and 6. So we have 2 more episodes left before we cap off season 1 of the first season of our Peaky Blinders podcast. Any closing thoughts, statements of anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we covered most of it. I'm excited to finish season 1. It's been a long time since I've watched the show. I mean, at this point, 5 years since I watched the season, right?
I will say that I'm picking up on so many things that even though this is like my 3rd rewatch Peaky Blinders, you still pick up little details that you just overlooked in the first time. But it also is probably because I'm writing notes while watching the show.
Everything is like that, though. Like Harry Potter. Every time we watch Harry Potter, I feel like we're always seeing something we didn't see before, or catching something we didn't catch. Like the level of detail in it is great. The only other thing I was gonna bring up is a movie that I want to watch. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not, and if you've seen it, let me know what to expect. But I keep hearing Belfast this and Belfast that, and Grace is from Belfast, and outside of the show as well. Like I keep hearing about Belfast, and like all these different shows and all these different movies. I have no idea what on earth happened in Belfast, but there's a movie called Belfast about what happened in Belfast. Have you seen the movie Belfast?
No, I'm assuming it's about the IRA.
It might be. I'm gonna watch that at some point. So I have it on my my Apple TV list. So I'm gonna have to watch that as like homework or something for like season 1 of this or season 2.
Side homework assignment. Let me know if it's any good so I can watch as well.
I will.
All right, Zach, you do the outro per usual.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening to episode 4 of season 1 of the Peaky Blinders podcast by Story Archives. If you want to find us on the internet, you can find our website at storyarchives.themidnightexchange.com. We're on Instagram at Story Archives. You can also listen to this podcast basically anywhere podcasts are found. Apple, Spotify, Google, you can find us on most of the others, but there's the main ones. And beyond that, you can find us at our, podcast network, which is The Midnight Exchange. You can go to that website there at themidnightexchange.com, and there's a whole bunch of information there. It links you out to all of the social media. And if you want to send us an email, you have any suggestions, I don't know, maybe you're like a subject matter expert on all things.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, send us an email at podcast@themidnightexchange.com, and we'd be happy to have you on. Maybe we can make a bonus episode out of it, and you can drop some knowledge on us. But other than that, I think that'll do it for episode 4.
That'll do. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Peaky Blinders podcast by Story Archives. Until next time, peace.